listening to Driving Law, a podcast by Kyla Lee about all things related to the rules of the road.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Driving Law. I am Kyla Lee at Acumen Law, and with me, my co-host, Paul Doroshenko.
Yes, virtually with you.
Yes.
Good to see
Yeah.
you had a tough night.
I had a tough night. So many of our listeners know that I have a very senior dog who has a lot of health issues, and among them now is bladder incontinence. Which he doesn't really mind. Like, a lot of people are like, it's cruel to keep him alive when he's incontinent, but like, it's cruel to keep them alive when they're incontinent when it starts to cause them mental anguish. But he just really doesn't seem fazed by peeing on my floor. I think it's what he's wanted to do all along, and now he's just finally being able to,
Well, fascinating thing is it's not just incontinence, it's decision making for him.
Yep.
Because he doesn't pee at the office.
Not usually.
Not unless it's like a real stressful situation. He knows what to do, but you are in your new to you house, and he's just decided this is a new location, and I'm not going to hold myself to these rules.
And it's like, it's not, it's also not like he just doesn't know it's happening, because he'll be walking to the door to go out. The door will be open and he'll see that it's drizzling a little bit of rain and stop in the hallway and pee there because he doesn't get wet.
So it's not, I mean, he's old and he's a little grouchy with that, but he still enjoys his life. And I think he's like taking some pleasure at this time in his life to have a little bit of license to pee where he will.
Yes. Anyway, so while I was at work yesterday, he was home alone and he peed in my bed, and not just anywhere in the bed, exactly where I sleep in the bed. So I, got home, spilled pee in my bedroom and discovered the mess, and was like, great. It had been there long enough that, of course, it had soaked into the mattress. So here I am trying to figure out how to get urine out of a mattress at like 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, super fun. And I decided to put an enzyme cleaner on the bed, which, is just a thing that gets rid of urine smell. Like, it's really useful. So I thought this will be great. My bed won't smell like pee.
It converts it to something else, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, I didn't know what it did. There's like little enzymes that digest the urine molecules to stop them from smelling and break them down. But of course, like with any chemical process or biological process, there are gases that are created. Just like a fermentation of a blood tube.
There's byproducts. Yes. So
I slept in the byproducts of this, breathing them in and getting them into my skin overnight until about 3 a.m. when I woke up, and I was sick for several hours.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I actually, I can still smell it in my skin. I've put on so many hand products. I scrubbed in the shower. I've washed my hands like 12 times. My pores are still oozing it out. And it, every time I smell my hands, move my hand in my face, if I breathe in, feel like kicking again. So if I don't seem as chipper as normal, that's why.
Hey, you seem pretty chipper. You're putting it on for the podcast.
And I just recorded a different podcast, but I've gone back to comfy clothes.
I am feeling, for this podcast, you can wear comfy clothes. I'm feeling tremendous guilt because I am once again at the in the mountains this time with my son for the promised trip that he always wanted to make in autumn to go see if we can find the old town site of Tijon up on the hills. And like the year that you can go do it because go up there bear wise. And here we are. The provincial government has got job action happening. All the workers are not at the liquor stores, and our distillery is going mad crazy. And people have been working 12-hour days there to make enough vodka for all of the private liquor stores and people who are coming in to buy vodka, and now restaurants contacting us to buy vodka. And here I am. And you actually have been delivering vodka, and are delivering vodka the next couple of days, and here I am, feeling guilty.
Yep.
I'll be home in a couple of days, back to work, delivering vodka and bottling and doing everything on Tuesday.
All right. Well, let's get into the podcast stuff then.
Lots to cover.
Lots to cover. No strike updates. So for those of you coming to the podcast for an update on your cases on the strike, sorry.
Well, I would say there is an update, and the update is that it does not appear that either side is even close to being willing to compromise on anything. And I don't know what the game plan is, if they're both waiting till they're forced into arbitration or something. I don't know. I don't see an end.
I know certain things about certain things that make it such that I don't have hope this is going to end soon.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
we're pretty good at figuring out how things unfold, knowing how players play the game. And in this one, it's very hard to predict because you've got intractable players at the top.
that's all I'll say about that. Let's not talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
Let's talk about road rage.
Let's talk about road
As
rage.
I start to feel a little rage.
It's been a big topic lately.
Yeah, so there was a really tragic incident in North Vancouver, a road rage incident. A person, something happens. I think someone cut somebody off. That's usually how most road rage incidents start. And one of the parties gets out of their vehicle and goes over to the other person who takes off, knocking them over. And they were in like critical condition for a while. They were improving though.
What I gathered, because I read probably 8 versions of that story before I spoke to Mike Smith about it earlier in the week, was that one of the drivers was trying to get in the sort of zip and maybe was doing it in a manner that was contrary to your standard zip pattern. People get offended easily, and then stopped to, after getting in, to get out of their car to berate the person who didn't let them in without them forcing their way in. And that person, my understanding is then maybe trying to escape from them. You don't know. We'll see. Hit them, struck them personally, and they were pinned underneath. I think it was a Subaru. So somebody's got to have is hiring a defense lawyer, and it's not us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it unless they decide to phone us after this.
Which they can.
But yeah, they can. And but there's been 3 very bad road rage cases in the country recently. There was one in Winnipeg, 27-year-old and 35-year-old. The 27-year-old went to his car, pulled out brass knuckles, and started hitting him.
Illegal, by the way.
Well, it got worse. The police found that person, stopped him, found the brass knuckles, also a big knife and some cocaine. And so it was one of those situations where you don't know who you're confronting. It sounded like he had those weapons because he was dealing.
Weirdly, in that situation, the brass knuckles are probably the thing that's going to get you in the most trouble.
Yeah, because he used it as a weapon, assaulted the person, used it as a weapon, but he obviously had for the weapon. And to the search of the vehicle, the finding the drugs in those circumstances, on the bare face of it, that's very often a lawful search. So that one could be a problem. And then there was a death road rage case in Ontario.
That's awful.
So this is 3. And I guess, everybody's saying, all right, do we need something out there as a specific law that deals just with road rage so people know that road rage is illegal?
No.
And I know I know your opinion on it.
Yeah, I was on BC Today with Michelle Elliott on CBC about this. I don't think that we need a specific law. We have plenty of laws in place that already cover it. We have assault with a weapon. If you assault somebody with your car is the weapon. We have uttering threats. You can utter threats through your words or your actions, and that can include even just like revving your engine at somebody or, aggressively honking your horn while inching your car forward or whatever, road ragey thing. We have, your straightforward assaults. And, if you're shouting, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to run you over, you cut me off, I'm going to end your life or whatever, that's your straightforward uttering threats. And then, if you kill somebody with your car in a road rage incident, we have dangerous driving causing death. If you leave the scene after doing that, as many people do, it's, there's leaving the scene in circumstances where somebody's died. It's already covered. We don't need a specific law.
Damage somebody's car, there's mischief. There are all those things. But, I would say people don't understand that those things are covered, maybe because we don't have a law that just specifically is the road rage law. But ultimately, it is an issue where the public doesn't seem to realize what is in effect very often.
Yes, I agree. I mean, look, if you're a provincial government out there, your popularity is slipping, but your biggest political opponent is facing a serious criticism of his leadership and may last less time than those ostriches. You might want to think about enacting a provincial road safety road rage law. That might score you some cheap and easy political points.
And you could, motor vehicle act offense that's more specifically to it. But again, it's an issue of public education. You could also just run an education campaign where you explained, settle down out there. There are multiple offenses you can be charged with, and almost anything you do in a road ragey circumstance could lead to something. Driving without reasonable consideration for others being the number one.
Yep. Why would a provincial government spend good money on proven methods of deterring certain types of behavior
when they could just introduce a law and have all sorts of new documents republished and printed and stuff I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're looking to score points, as you seem to be almost a political advisor now that you're on CBC every week. Some of those
I'm like
things.
the worst political advisor. I'm like, here's how to piss me off. It'll score good political points. If it makes me mad, the public's gonna love it.
But people phone you, and people from government and police officers talk to you about these things. You're like the advisor, the de facto advisor for all sorts of these things. So, and it's not just because you're podcast, and it's not just because you're, wily and a super lawyer. You're also clear at explaining these things. So.
And I'm, for as much as people accuse me of being like a, diehard lefty, I'm actually like very nonpartisan. I'm an issues person. I'm not a party person.
Well, there you go. So, yes, they should come.
Everybody except the Greens have pissed me off on issues lately. But they've got new leadership, so who knows? They might piss me off too.
Well, the problem with the Greens is the entire ethos of the party changes entirely every time they have a new leader.
This is the thing.
Federally, they're like very conservative, have been, and then they were not very conservative, and then they went back to being very conservative. So I don't know. The Greens blow with the wind.
Yes.
Anyway, so I think road ragey new law. I would say if you want to score some political points, do it. That would be my thing. But if you're gonna do it, call Kyla so she can write it for you. Because a few years back, you wrote an entirely new section of the Motor Vehicle Act to deal with cell phones that would have completely fixed most of the things that have led to you, having criticism of it and others having criticism of it and defenses.
Yep. But, nobody's calling me to write their laws for them. Why would they let me write a law that I would agree with?
No, they just call you and question you for other things.
Yeah.
They don't call and question you for the thing that you offered them the entire complete package. Here you go. There's no copyright. It's yours to use. I rewrote the legislation.
So when it comes to road rage, I will give the legal advice to the podcast listeners that I gave to Michelle Elliott's listeners, which is, at the end of the day, the most important thing when you're behind the wheel is, number one, your safety. Number two, being considerate of others, which includes respecting their safety. But you protect your safety first, and then you protect the safety of others, but you're also considerate. You let people merge. You don't block people from getting in your lane when their lane is ending. If you want to avoid road rage, just be polite on the road. I said I'm a hypocrite in saying this. I'm not always polite. I don't always let people in. If I see people like trying to break the law and like trying to cross a solid line, I get real close to the vehicle in front of me because I'm not facilitating you committing an offense. But And then
So good with it. I think most of us are, but we sit there and think to ourselves, well, I have good judgment, and my good judgment is this person's expressing bad judgment. And so I don't feel that I should let them in. And
yeah, but
then there's the person who forces their way in, and then they're in front of you, and you're like, okay, goddamn fucking BMW drivers. Uh,
the thing, Paul, you know how people on the road are like, I know more than anybody else. I'm a better driver than anybody else. I do know more than anybody else on the road about what the Motor Vehicle Act says. I do.
That's true. You're like there's yeah, arguably you do know more than anybody else what the Motor Vehicle Act says. That's true. I mean, the superintendent of motor vehicles didn't read and memorize the Motor Vehicle Act. You did. And read all the changes. Yeah, you're right. There is nobody else who knows it better than you do. I would say I would probably come in the top 10, maybe top 20 in the province for knowing about it. Although there's police officers who are more knowledgeable about many sections than I am. I know the sections I know very well. But yes, that's true. So, and I'm an incredibly good driver. So between the two of us, we basically got it covered. We should be entitled to not let anybody in.
Yeah, people should listen to us. Like, if I'm not letting someone in, they should know I'm right.
Exactly. Well, they look over and see that it's you. I'm sure they will defer.
Like, my biggest fear is I do something stupid because everybody makes mistakes and I do too. And somebody sees me and recognizes me. Oh my God, I would die.
Really?
Yeah, I would be so embarrassed.
Yeah, for 5 minutes. For 5 minutes. When I got cut off earlier this week by some dude in a white BMW, I thought, I'm not even going to let it bother me for a minute. And I didn't. So it's, it's all in it, it's all how you approach it in your brain.
Fair. All right. Speaking of
To the next
changes, cheap political point changes to the BC Motor Vehicle Act, there is a proposal right now. It started with a change.org petition, but it's gotten a lot of media attention, including a column by Les Lane in the Times Colonist, basically saying the government should do this. This makes perfect sense. It's called Xavier's Law. It does not make perfect sense for reasons we will break down. And what the law is that if you are involved in an accident, a car accident, and somebody dies, you lose your license indefinitely until either charges are not going to be laid, like there's some determination about that that's somehow understood, or 2, you're charged and your case is resolved and you're found not guilty. But if you're found guilty, you lose your license forever.
So basically, indefinite driving prohibition starting from the moment of the accident where somebody dies, or when they die, I guess, that they show up a week later and the person dies in the hospital. And that you continue to be prohibited unless you're acquitted at trial or the Crown somehow makes a decision, as you indicated, I mean, the vagueness of that, to not approve a charge. Now, lots of things to unpack there. I would just start with that second part because we can unpack it quickly. These are indictable offenses. If somebody is charged with a death case and there's no limitation period, and the Crown could wait 10 years to approve a charge, they probably wouldn't.
We're dealing with a case right now, an allegation of a driving offense involving a fatality. The incident happened more than 3 years ago.
Yes.
And it's only just started, the trial.
Yes. And in our office, there's a number where there's been no charge approved, and you don't know when the charge is going to be approved, and it may not be approved. And a different prosecutor might pick it up when somebody else retires or moves to a different office and decide, okay, yeah, we're going to get on this thing. Whereas the other person might have been thinking, I'm not sure about this. I want the police to investigate this and this and this. So that's one very simple issue to deal with, and that is that there is no hard line in these because the timeline doesn't start until after the charge is approved.
Yeah.
And so that's a sort of the ridiculous part of it.
There's also no communication that happens if a charge isn't approved. Like if the police forward a file to Crown and they look at it and they're like, no crime was committed here, and that's the end of it. Or if police forward it to Crown.
Or we don't think we can prove it.
Yeah. Like that, and then nothing happens.
There's no big rubber stamp on the front that says not approved, give their license back.
Police gather evidence in accident cases all the time and go, was the deceased person's fault. The end, move on.
or it wasn't a criminal offense. Like, uh, it
Then what? You get a traffic ticket and you're supposed to have this indefinite driving prohibition until your traffic ticket is adjudicated?
occasionally it's a mechanical failure of the vehicle, or the person's like wearing boots, then they don't somehow end up pressing the gas instead of the brake, and like there's all sorts of different things that can happen.
Remember those Teslas that were just like automatically driving into things on their own for a
Yeah.
little while?
Yeah, there was a while of that. There was also in the 1980s, Audi had their brake and gas pedals so close together that you could press both and think you're pressing the brake. Um, it was their sudden acceleration scandal, and they denied any responsibility for it. But ultimately, it happened to me in a '89 Audi, and it was pedals were so close together. I nearly drove through a window of a Tim Hortons and killed everybody in Williams Lake.
Do you remember that case we had? We had that case where our client was charged after driving his vehicle into a storefront, and the police had just not gone and investigated whether there were any vehicle recalls. Turns out there was like a steering wheel or steering column recall and a sudden acceleration recall.
Yes, the steering wheel would come off the splines, and you wouldn't know it. It was a recall for that, and it was precisely what was described, and the video showed. And drove into a
That way.
yeah. Yeah, guys madly trying to steer the thing, and it's just going off in some side direction.
Yeah, and that was the police forgetting to do one step.
Yep.
And that person had to be like rung through the system.
Well, I know it was like about 2 months before the trial when I started researching it, and I found that recall on that vehicle.
Yeah.
And I might not have found it, but for the fact that the trial was approaching, and if my client was suspended, would it be my fault as a lawyer for not finding it until 2 months before? My brain finally clicks, and hey, man, I should look at, something I didn't often look at. Not always. Sometimes I would, but.
Well, the other thing I think we need to comment on with respect to this is Alberta. Remember Alberta's original IRP scheme?
Yep. So the original version of the IRP scheme was essentially an indefinite driving prohibition the same way. And Alberta at the Queen's Bench level, now it's King's Bench, but at the Queen's Bench level, the judge upheld that and said, "Oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread." And it was actually a weird decision in my view. And then it went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal said, "Oh, hang on, this is a de facto bail condition, and you're not allowed to write de facto bail conditions." And I don't know that it would be permissible in any event.
Yeah, tethering the issuance and revocation of a driving prohibition to the conclusion of a criminal trial is unconstitutional.
Yes.
Now,
Um,
the British Columbia government could just instruct prosecutors to seek no driving conditions where appropriate on bail for people arrested for driving offenses.
and they do occasionally if there's a record of it, and it would be justified.
Yeah.
So there was actually a discussion of matching Alberta's thing in BC until that decision came from the Court of Appeal, and everybody looked at it and said, "Okay, hang on, this does make a lot of sense." And in fact, it's changed the way that we approach driving prohibitions when they are being issued by court as a result, although not everybody seems to know that. I don't know that every lawyer is taking that into account, but it's certainly something that you and I have used to the advantage of our clients. But in any event, yes. Thirdly, there is already another mechanism, right? Like,
I know, the change.org position's like, there's no other way to do this. There is an existing means to accomplish this.
there's precisely an existing means, and it is often abused by police, in my view, and a couple other ways that they abuse things, like overlapping driving prohibitions, ADPs, and the ADP is struck down, so issue another ADP, and that ADP is struck down, and issue another ADP, or a high risk incident report to the superintendent of motor vehicles. So basically, what happens is
The police write up a little narrative and fill out a form and say, this is what happened, and somebody's dead, or even people don't even have to die. I had a client get one for accidentally reversing too far, and her car went down an embankment, and nobody was injured, and nothing bad happened. But the cop was like, high risk driving. She reversed too far and misjudged the distance. Like, Jesus. And then so the police submit this to the superintendent of motor vehicles. The superintendent of motor vehicles reads the police officer's report and goes, his word is gold. And then sends the person a driving prohibition either in the mail or sends the officer to go serve them the driving prohibition, hunt them down and serve it to them. And then the person is prohibited from driving for as long as the superintendent deems appropriate. And I've seen them from 2 months to 3 years.
A lot of them, I look at it and it is very hard to justify. But the population of the province would probably be sympathetic to the driving prohibition and agree with the superintendent. I look at it and say, from my perspective as a lawyer, knowing the full of the case, and the fact that I don't necessarily want to reveal my client's case when he's or she is entitled to the presumption of innocence and no obligation to provide any evidence, is really a contradiction in law. And I struggle to say that it can be done fairly. And my other concern is you and I know that there are some police officers who are fucking nutballs. And unfortunately, occasionally those are the officers who decide to send somebody a report in. And the superintendent of motor vehicles, as far as we can tell, does not have a chart on their wall keeping track of which officers are fucking nutballs. But they should. They should.
We can draw it for them.
You can't get rid of them. You can't fire them. Like, in some occasion, Crown prosecutors pretty much can't get fired in BC. It's almost impossible. Police officers, very hard to fire them. Firing anybody is like a extraordinarily difficult thing. But a government employee, unfortunately, sometimes, rather than firing them, if there's somebody who can't work with any other police officer, they end up in traffic. Some of the best officers I know end up in traffic. Some of the nicest police I've met with end up in traffic, and some of them choose it because they want to avoid having to deal with difficult personalities, and so they're out there in their car on their own. But there's some who are just, and they'll be the ones writing that high-risk incident report.
Yeah.
Probably 10% of them are written by those officers.
So there's a fourth thing that I haven't mentioned before, but occurred to me as we were talking here. If this were the case, it would really gut the desire of people facing driving offenses to engage in plea discussions. If you're going to lose your license forever, if you negotiate a plea, you get a discharge for dangerous driving, you're going to lose your license for a year under the existing law. There's a give and take there. You don't get a criminal record, you do get a 1-year driving prohibition, but if you're going to lose your license forever, I can't think of a single client who would be like, yeah, I'll plead and lose my license for the rest of my life. In circumstances where they might agree to it for a shorter driving prohibition, weighing the risk of, jail, and a longer driving prohibition if it goes to trial.
Yeah, it'd be fuck it, run a trial.
Yeah. And then there goes our expeditious court systems. Running trials on dangerous driving charges, that's not easy. It's days of court time because you've got mechanical experts, which means voir dires for qualifications of experts. Cross-examination on technical issues takes a long time. You often get competing experts. You've got accident reconstructionists, and then all of the things that go into collecting the data for the scene. You've got civilian witnesses. You've got video, the admissibility of the video, the analysis of frame rates, and all sorts of crazy shit. This is all the type of stuff that happens in a dangerous driving trial. People think, it's just somebody's just going to come and talk about how bad they drove. Fuck no. No. Talk about a week of court time if you're doing it properly.
A week is probably average. You and I have had them for 10 days. Not necessarily run 10 days, but scheduled for 10 days.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're 5 days into it and you realize you need 4 more days. And that's all court time that the taxpayers are paying for. And what are you accomplishing in the end? You've got somebody very often in these cases, death cases, you're looking at it and you're going, okay, the driving here is just awful. Like how that person made that decision, I don't get it if that's what they did. But their fucking driving record's perfect for 18 years or 7 years or whatever. They've got no tickets. They've got no history. They've got nothing.
Oh,
You're like,
be off the road now and forever.
and so you're looking at it going, okay, like I'm, as a defense lawyer, you and I are always trying to understand how that happened that way. And driving is, as we've talked about before on the podcast, it's one of those fluid things where you're making decisions as you go. And sometimes you make a stupid decision, and sometimes you put your foot in the pedal too hard and you think there's no risk. And then all of a sudden the risk unfolds.
A client,
Yeah.
a client right now who had a undiagnosed brain bleed caused him to get in an accident. This is all very well known. It's
We've had a few cases where it was medical. And then there's also been cases where you sure think it's medical and you can't figure it out because biological creatures, you can't always figure it out.
Oh. Like if you're having one of those, what is it, a transient ischemic attack? Like a TEA, one of those little mini seizure things?
Yeah.
Unless you're going to go to a neurologist and get like a brain scan and brain mapping, where maybe they'll be able to see an artifact of it.
And maybe they can't.
Yeah.
If you have a Stephen Miller freeze up.
Yeah, when you accidentally acknowledge that the president thinks that he has
Battery powers.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I don't think that was a transient ischemic attack, Paul.
I don't know. I mean, that guy's got brain damage. So
does Jordan Peterson, by the way.
Really wrong. Yeah, I know. But we've suspected that for a long time, that he was affected by something, because he certainly didn't make any sense for a decade here. What a bozo.
All right. Well, since we're on the topic of bozos, let's talk about
the ridiculous driver of the week.
Which is a woman in, I'm sorry, we've deviated from our Canadian ridiculous drivers just because there's so much news right now that the bad drivers are not, like, unless you're doing something criminal.
You're not getting on. Now's the time to be an awful driver.
Yeah, the funny ones aren't getting in the news. The sad ones are. Okay, so this is a woman who has a terrible driving record. She's on a driving prohibition, talking about, driving prohibitions for life. This woman was not deterred from driving. And she was a habitual traffic offender with revoked Florida driving privileges, who illegally parked her car and then idled it, contrary to like a no idling sign, at an intersection near a school, and then left the car unattended, idling at the intersection near the school when she wasn't able to be driving it in the first place. And so the police show up and I guess are trying to deal with this. They locate her. They're trying to deal with it. And she ends up punching and biting the police officers over them asking her to turn her car off and have somebody else drive it.
She's a ridiculous parker of the week.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
It's one way to pick your kids up from school.
Did we get her name? Is her name in there? Honestly, her name.
Erica McGriff.
I just want to know to avoid her. So.
Same age as me. Wow, we went down different pathways in life.
Did you ever? Oh my.
I wonder if it's the Florida water.
Could be. So, this was Florida. It was Florida. Okay.
Jacksonville, yeah. And Jacksonville, like the crazy part of Florida, too.
So just a little insider edge, know what how we make the sausage here at the Driving Law Podcast. If we haven't already spotted 5 ridiculous drivers of the week and sent them to each other, either on Slack, text message, or some other form, direct messages on TikTok, then we are looking for the ridiculous driver of the week. And if we don't find something that comes up quickly in a Google search, the next thing we usually do is punch the word Florida in there.
Yeah, Florida driver. Guaranteed to have content every day, every week, every month, every week.
There's always somebody who's from Florida. Jacksonville is, yes, it's the height of the crazy in Florida.
There's a lot of negative things you can say about Florida, but there are 3 things you can't criticize. Number 1, Disney World. Number 2, Key West. And number 3, Florida man. As a concept, also applying to women and non-binary people.
Well, one of the things that I keep thinking that we should be covering is in Florida, they now have open carry. So people can carry their weapon openly. And there's tons and tons of video of guys riding down the highway on their motorcycle with their AK-47 strapped to their back. People driving around with them all over the place in their vehicles, in their cars and trucks, and getting in and out with like 2 handguns on their hips. And there has been some road rage cases since this open carry started. That is unfortunately a ridiculous state of the epic, I guess, of the era, because how that can make any sense is just ridiculous.
I mean, if somebody cuts you off on their motorcycle and you can see their AK-47 slung across their back, you're probably not going to road rage at them. So maybe it deters crime.
Unless you're the type of person who's, has a bigger AK-47 in your Dodge truck, and you're so offended by that fact that you've been cut off.
Well, there is a reason why America has more shooting deaths than any other country in the world, including war-torn ones.
I see so much of it as, back to the road rage just for a moment, as people perceiving an issue of honor, that their honor is insulted. And so much of the road rage is the honor that's insulted. And you would think that, we're no longer living in small tribal communities, and we no longer have these same sort of structures around us that are so dependent on honor. And most people, should have watched some Star Trek and realized that the societies where they're so bent on honor are the ones that seem to have the biggest problems. But really, it comes down to that. It's like the sort of old school family feud thing, where people just decided their honor of their vehicle is so important that they decided they've got to road rage after they've been cut off.
Okay.
Right.
Well, usually, speaking of cutting people off, when Paul gets into philosophy of American society portion of the podcast, it's time to cut him off.
Well, if we're sitting side by side, you usually just,
Kick me.
me.
If you see a pained reaction from Paul, it's me kicking him under the table to shut him up.
But our most popular podcasts have been the ones where we were philosophical.
So you say. I don't analyze the metrics. All right. Well, that's our podcast. If you have a driving law related issue or questions about any of the things that we discussed here today, you can find us online at vancouvercriminallaw.com or give us a call at 604-685-8889 and tune in next week for another exciting episode of Driving Law.
And have a great Thanksgiving.